In 2021, vaccination rates against COVID-19 accelerated in Latin America, but recovery from the devastating health, economic, and social effects of the pandemic was slow and uneven. Dissatisfaction with political leaders remained high. The region's persistent levels of inequality grew even more profound. As a result, in many countries, citizens took to the streets to express their frustration. And when they went to the polls, they showed a marked preference for change over traditional faces and parties. In 2021, the Wilson Center's Latin American program, Argentina Project, and Brazil Institute hosted 70 events featuring leading U.S. and Latin American public officials, scholars, journalists, and business leaders. They reflected on a historic year and generated policy responses to the region's major challenges. Our crisis conversations, dialogues with Latin American presidents on the front lines of COVID-19 response, included discussions with President Iván Duque of Colombia, President Laurentino Cortizo of Panama, and then-President Francisco Sagasti of Peru, reaching an audience of nearly 50,000 viewers. As the pandemic disrupted everyday activities in Latin America, it accelerated a shift toward digitization across diverse sectors. To explore this transition, we launched Going Digital, a seminar series that examines strategies that Latin American governments could adopt to deepen this digital transformation. These conversations examined the future of financial technology, e-commerce, and distance learning in the region and attracted almost 2,500 viewers. We also expanded our work on environmental sustainability and climate change. The Brazil Institute launched the Brazil-United States Dialogue on Sustainability and Climate Change. Throughout the year, this bilateral working group met quarterly and produced 4 reports. They examined how Brazil and the United States can collaborate to mitigate the effects of climate change and promote sustainable development in Brazil. The Brazil Institute also featured governors from the Amazon region, highlighting the important role of subnational governments in curbing deforestation. We also launched Latin America's Environmental Policies in Global Perspective, a research project involving 5 Wilson Center programs that examined the role of the international community in shaping Latin America's environmental agenda. Close to 4,000 individuals have read these papers so far, exploring themes such as the European Union's attempts to discourage deforestation in Brazil's ranching industry and international efforts to curtail overfishing in Ecuador. To generate ideas to address the prolonged crisis in Venezuela, we published Venezuela's Authoritarian Allies: The Ties That Bind, a book that explores the international dimensions of regime survival in Venezuela. In its review, Foreign Affairs praised the volume, writing, "The scope of the collection is impressive." Additionally, our Venezuela Working Group launched a series of papers on the role of the armed forces in contemporary Venezuela and how to apply the lessons of transitions from authoritarianism to democracy from around the world. We also focused on the role of external actors in Latin America in several publications about U.S. and Chinese medical diplomacy, and published analyses on gender-based violence and the decline of liberal democracy in the region. Latin American program experts were quoted over 1,000 times in print and broadcast media outlets in the United States, Latin America, and Europe, including in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, CNN en Español, Argentina's La Nación, Brazil's O Globo, Colombia's El Espectador, and the Financial Times, NPR, and the BBC. Additionally, our Americas 360, Plaza Central, Argentina Project podcast, and Brazil Institute podcast produced 38 episodes that reached thousands of listeners across the hemisphere. Podcast guests included the Executive Secretary of the UN Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, Alicia Bárcena, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Chile, Andrés Alamand, and President of the Inter-American Development Bank, Mauricio Claver Carón. As Latin America struggles to overcome the pandemic and sustain its economic recovery, the region's politics remain contentious and unpredictable. For our part, we remain committed to helping Latin America through its challenges by generating fresh policy ideas, amplifying Latin American voices, engaging diverse stakeholders, and building bridges between the U.S. government, civil society, the private sector, and their counterparts throughout the region.